Hey, training camp opens tomorrow for the Detroit Lions. And on the eve of training camp, boy, the predictions are coming in fast and furious as to what to expect from this team in this season. You guys talked a little bit about the USA Today prediction yesterday. Is that correct?
That's correct. The 3-13 prediction from Nate Davis, I think it was.
Yes. 3-13, the worst team in football. That's what he predicts, which obviously there's one conclusion to draw when you see that. With the first overall pick.
Right.
Tua Tagovailoa. One of the questions is, do some people actually want that? Like if you were given the option of 3-13, change in regime, and you get the number one overall pick, is that the only way to really kickstart this thing?
Well, if you get to 3-13, I said this yesterday, I'll say it again. If the Lions finish 3-13 or worse, it's because there's an injury to Stafford. And I've already moved on from Stafford. I would go ahead and take a quarterback first overall if that's what you got, or I take a quarterback in the first round. I would do that unless this team makes the playoffs. So I think some people that have given up, the people that have given up on Stafford are like, yep, this is great. Let's just tank it and start over, get the best quarterback. People love Tagovailoa, think he's going to be great, or whomever the case is, Herbert in Oregon. There's some pretty good quarterbacks going to be coming out. People like them. If not this year, how about next year? Trevor Lawrence after that. He could be gone. People are on board with that. I don't know what that percentage is. I don't know. I don't think it's north of 50 just yet, but I think it's getting there. 3-13 would be awful, just awful, and it would be well below my expectations on this team. I think right now I'm looking at this team. I started 8-8 before training camp begins, and I'll adjust during training camp to see how injuries play itself out. Looking at the rest of the landscape of the division, which is important because obviously you're playing 6 games against division opponents coming up, and it looks like the teams are all better than the Lions are. So see where that is. I'm leaning more towards a 7-9 prediction to start the season, which would be better than last year. But I'm not sure. I think that the offense has potential to be a lot better than what they were last year. I think the defense has potential to be better than what they were last year, to build off that top 10 ranking they had at the end of the season, which some of it might be fudged a little bit based on the competition they had in the second half of the season. But I do think they've got better players in place right now. And now that you've got Snacks and Slay back on the roster to start the season, and that shouldn't be an issue, yeah, I feel more confident that the defense is going to be a better defense overall than what they were last year. That being said, I do still have the questions about the offense, and I'm leaning at 7-9.
To me, it's very scary. Like the 3-13 is scary because they have gone so far with this direction, with what this staff believes in, that any new staff will likely have a bunch of useless parts. Like the whole idea that they went with the thumper middle linebacker and not the speedster. Jelani Tavai is the preferred middle linebacker over Devin Bush. And with so many people talking about, speed, and they're going, Jelani Tavai over Devin Bush. Not that they didn't go in the same.
No, they didn't.
But you get the point. They seem to prefer players a certain style way, that we better hope this system works because they have built a roster for this system. And if it doesn't, the next guy's not going to come in most likely and say, yeah, I can use all these guys and turn it around quickly. No, he's going to dump them all. Like the one thing that they do clearly is believe in their system. They clearly know what kind of player they want. It seems to be completely unconventional. And we better hope like hell that it works. 3-4, 4-3, the hybrid that they use, the fact that they, wanted this guy in the second round. I've liked some of what they've done, but, I know there's a percentage of people out there would say, yeah, 3-13, fire everybody, get the first overall pick. Sounds great to me. And that the Lions won't be able to really, really, truly start to win until they bottom out like this again and start with a new regime with great resources. So there's that. And then on the other side, did you see what Andy Benoit wrote? I mean, I think you guys touched on this yesterday briefly as well. The Sports Illustrated writer?
I don't think we did.
Okay. He wrote about the Lions that they have surprisingly few weaknesses. Andy Benoit said, aside from questions at guard, the Lions are subtly devoid of weakness. Some of the sharpest work last year came against the NFL's best coached teams, and this year that translates to success in a lot of those close games. That's Andy Benoit of Sports Illustrated. Subtly devoid of weaknesses. The pro Bob Quinn crowd, when he came in and started making moves, one of the pro Quinn crowd's mantras was, these are all smart football moves. They're not splashy. They're not big moves, but they're moves that build depth and add talent to the roster. And that it's about putting together a solid 53, not a top-heavy roster, but a roster of guys that can make plays, whether you're the starter or the backup, whether you're a part-time player, or you simply are a pass rusher, a third-down guy, whatever it is, they are really going to use the 53-man roster to the fullest extent, as opposed to going all in on some splashy signings. And when you hear that, one of the conclusions that would be drawn is they are devoid of real weakness. They might not be elite anywhere, but they are solid everywhere, and that's the way you build a solid football team. That was the theory.
Well, you look at the defense, starting with the defense, and I think we would all agree the defense is a strength. It's ahead of what the offense is, and yet the defense has weaknesses on it. How's this other safety going to be? You know, because Glover Quinn was pretty good for the last several years when he was here as a Lion, but they're replacing Glover Quinn. They're replacing another cornerback. Have they added a guy? Yeah, they added a slot corner, and that I'm intrigued by that because I want to see if this is, thinking outside the box, that you've got to have that guy who's a stud cover on the slot, and how is that going to change an opponent's game plan? But they're taking a chance at linebacker. If the plan is to put Tavai in the middle and then you've got Davis roaming outside or whatever, well, that's a gamble. I don't know if that's going to work out better than what they had before. I think there's a learning curve that goes with playing middle linebacker in the NFL. So is that learning curve going to take up this whole season? And is this season going to be, just a learning season, and the record's going to suffer because of it? If they're not going to, it's almost like this: if they're not going to make the playoffs, be as bad as you can be, right? Mm-hmm. It's the same kind of mantra that you have in basketball or hockey or baseball. You tank, without obviously, throwing games, but you have to play guys that are healthy. We know this. They're going to play guys that are healthy. Look, they played Stafford in the last game of the season. Apparently, he had broken bones in his back. But if you're not going to be good enough to make the playoffs, then be bad enough to have a top 5 pick.
Well, I think there's 2 players on this roster that if they come out and perform this year, one on offense and one on defense, kind of prove that this staff knows what they're doing. I think there's a bit of a leap in faith that they do know what they're doing, but I think there's 2 that more than others will tell that this staff knows what they're doing. We'll tell you who those 2 players are today at 10:32. 248-539-9797. Opposing opinions. You got Nate Davis of USA Today that you guys talked about yesterday saying 3-13. You got Andy Benoit of Sports Illustrated saying, aside from questions at guard, the Lions are subtly devoid of weakness. When you hear these 2 things, 3-13, a football team devoid of weakness, which do you think is more true? Are you in Camp Davis, Camp Benoit? Davis being 3-13, Benoit being subtly devoid of weaknesses. Ticket text 97136, Karsch and Anderson, 97.1.